I'm Craig Beaumont-Flynn. Welcome to Beyond the Design, a show that gives you a peek behind the curtain of the design industry and shares the stories of those that are the driving force behind it. Well, welcome to Beyond the Design. It's our pleasure to invite Barclay Butera to the show today. Welcome to the show, Barclay.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just going to start off and ask you to tell us a little about your story and being in the design industry and what started your journey in this.
It's an interesting story, and people always find it fascinating that I grew up in the business. My mom had about a 50-person firm, and we were based first in San Francisco, then in Palo Alto, in Northern California. And I had the wonderful job of taking care of the library for the design firm. That means updating all pricing, catalogs, and all of that. So I kind of worked there. I started there, and then when I had free time, like in the summers, my mom they did about 250 model homes a year, and this is why model homes are like amazingly hard to do because you're doing like 5 homes, 5 days. And each home has its own theme, because people like want to see what can they do with their house. And so it's a lot of work, and and we would travel throughout the country because we worked for so many different home builders. So it was really like me on the road, working and putting together houses very quickly. So it was kind of baptism by fire. I went to college and then I studied political science. Yeah, I went to college and studied political science and economics, and went to 1 year of law school, and then dropped out, much to my mother's dismay. And I opened her second office in Corona del Mar, California, which is a suburb of Newport Beach, and so And then I opened that in 92, and she moved down in 94. And then I realized I can't work in the same office with my mother. So I left. I'm sorry.
No worries.
I left in 94. And so I will have my business now, my personal business. We have about 36 employees right now and about 14 interior designers. And it'll be 30 years old next year.
Wow, that's congratulations to that. That's a milestone to turn. Now, being on the job training when your mom had her studio, what inspired and motivated you to actually take that turn after school to get into this industry?
It was really, again, when I got out of law school or left law school, I really figured out that I really didn't want to be in a non-creative industry. And I felt like I was a very creative, or am a very creative person. And then going from law back to interior design, I love the fact that I have so much freedom in interior design that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So I think that it's a very special moment that I was able to leave in 94, start a firm. In 2008, we were 132 employees, 7 locations, and now we're 3 locations and 36 employees. So it's much more manageable than it was in the old days.
Right. Yeah. So when you take on a new project, what is your approach and process?
To me?
Yes.
So I take on very few projects. So the company might be doing 150 projects at a time, but I take on usually ground up or very large remodels, and I work on very expensive homes. So I really cherry pick my clients because licensing has become such an important part of my world that I have to allow a lot of time for the licensing side.
That's a lot of juggling. I was going to ask you about that. You're known for about, 16 licenses? What got
Correct.
you started in doing product design and extending your brand name?
I will tell you that I started with the most lovely company, and it is the Kravitz family. And they really believed in me. and I was very young when I started with them. And so it was a magical relationship. And in fact, I have a new book coming out with Kravit. It'll be out probably 6-8 months, but it'll be really beautiful. And I think that'll make it 12 books with Kravit, maybe 11. So, I have had a lot of success with them, but it really started the steamroller going on licensing. So Kravit was my first.
And you kind of caught the bug and decided to do more and more. And
well, and other people wanted me because I was so successful at Kravit that people knew how hard worker I was, and the fact that I was a very good salesperson, or am a good salesperson, that I could know how to sell products really well. Because the name of the game, it's not just putting your name on product; it's being able to sell the product that you have your name on.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you have a new collection coming out fairly soon?
I had a new collection come out, well, a bunch, but I have new collections every high point for the most part. But my largest collection that just came out was my 7th with Lexington Home Brands, called Villa Blanca. And it's a lot of very heavy carvings that are like painted in a suede. They call it polo mallet white. So if you can imagine the polo mallet and that kind of suede white finish. So these heavy carvings are painted in white. So it's like the antithesis of what you would see. You would normally see these pieces like in mahogany, but we've twisted it and made them white, thus calling it Villa Blanca.
So what inspires you and motivates you in the creation of a product line, and where do you gather that information from?
It's really funny because we were even talking about this yesterday, how much I gather from travel and how much I gather from cinema, fashion, and it's always very consistent. Like even if I go to Maison, it's as important for me to go to the fashion boutiques as it is to go to Maison, because I get my inspiration at Maison and I get my inspiration just on the streets of Paris. So there's really, it's a fine line of how I get my inspiration, but it does come from fashion, cinema, travel, kind of like those type of experiences.
Right. I mean, you have your hands in a lot of things. Is there anything in particular that you have not done yet that you still want to do?
Salone in Milan, I've never been. So I think that what's great is this upcoming April, they're about a week apart from High Point to Salone. So I would say that this would be the perfect year, because normally they overlap and it's very hard to go to both. So I really think that this will be the first year that I go to Salone.
Will you be launching a product at Salone or just an attendance?
Attendant, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mostly contemporary Italian design, but still that inspires me too. So,
how about in project-wise? Is there any particular type of project that you still want to incorporate your stamp on?
we're getting more and more into commercial and hospitality. So we'll see what happens in the future with both of those categories. And almost I'm getting involved in being like a creative director over very, very large projects. So really my personal career might morph into something else as the time goes.
So when was the point in your career when you said, okay, I've made it on my own, I'm not part of my mother's business?
Probably when I left in '94, because she was unhappy and I was not going to make her happy for years. So she wasn't happy that I left the company. Yeah.
So you mentioned projects that you're very selective on the projects you actually partake in and do. Is there any criteria besides being a large scale home or any type of design aesthetic that you want to achieve?
It's more about my personal relationship with the client. Really, if I don't think it's a client that's going to be that we both can get along for 2 years, then I don't want to take the job.
Right.
And I'm very blessed to have these designers that have worked for me for some of them 23 years, 22 years, and I can pass on that design team to the project. They're going to get very, very a well done project that these people are all trained by me. So I'm not worried if I pass on a project to another design team because it just doesn't fit my mold. It's important, when you think about it, if you're going to spend 2 years with a client, you really have to get along. And I've learned that the hard way. So there's been a few hiccups along the way that has taught me very hardly that you got to cherry pick your clients.
True. It's like going on a date or dating for 2 years. You really got to enjoy that person and have that right communication and everything.
I always say we're therapists for the home. So when we go and get involved in these homes, we know what's in the drawers of the master bathroom. We know what's going on everywhere.
Absolutely.
And, so you get really close to your client. Yeah.
True. Some things you probably don't want to know. Are there some key factors you consider when designing a space, both functionality and aesthetically?
There's a lot of things that I believe in design. Unlike the trend of asymmetrical design, I'm very, very symmetrical in my design. I feel like it's easy on the eye. And when things are balanced, I think they're easier to look at rather than asymmetrical design. My own personal opinion, when I start with a home, I always feel like the grounding element is the floor and the area rug that might go on the floor, because it is the color that sets the theme for the entire room. And then artwork. So I really try to look at, like, if I'm going to do whatever upholstery I'm going to do for that room, the artwork and the rug play a major part of the colors that go on in that room. So I kind of start from the exterior in. So from the walls and the floor in, and then I create my design from that point when I talk color and scale.
So when did you know that you had a curated signature aesthetic that people were kind of pulled into?
Really, it came from the way I dressed, like from high school on.
Oh, really?
Because I was always like a very, haberdashery type of guy. And so I think that creative energy was so apparent that as I grew older, you could tell I was going to be in a creative industry.
And have you just continued to have that specific design? I mean, you're very known for your very specific design. Have you built upon it through time and projects?
Yeah. I mean, I have an office in Park City, Utah, and it's amazing. It's not about the lodge anymore. It's not about antlers. It's about very contemporary architecture.
Right.
So it has really taken us a very different direction than we have been in the past. So, yeah, I mean, I would say Park City has influenced me to go very contemporary on those jobs.
Has there been a particular project where you had an unforgettable transformation that the client had a lot of emotion that you didn't expect from the results?
We're installing right now in Newport Coast about 19,000, no, 12,000 feet. Yeah, 12,000 feet. And it's a Chinese couple, and he's the largest tennis shoe manufacturer in China. So he's like the Nike of China, and he doesn't export. He only manufactures for China. And they paid $19 million for the house. And I tell you, we spent a lot of money on it. It was a massive remodel, and we're installing this week, and it's like magic. I took an awful Mediterranean that was built 20 years ago and turned it into Montecito masterpiece. So like it's really a beautiful home.
So do you do a reveal? Do you not let the clients walk it prior to complete
That's
installation?
always the dream. Is it
Yeah.
always reality? No, because she lives so close to the house. But in fact, I need to text her after this and say, please don't go to the house until we're finished, because you just they cherry pick all the flaws, and then they're not realizing that you're not going to notice that once we get everything installed.
Right, right.
So but yeah, but I'm excited to see the finished product on this one. It's again, it was a 2 year in the making project. We're probably talking. They paid 19 for it. We're probably talking a $40 million house now.
Oh, it's quite a few
Yeah,
pennies.
yeah, and they're. I started working with them at 30, and now they're 32. So it's just a very interesting, couple.
Since the expanse of your career, have you seen yourself and your design aesthetic transformation throughout the years? Have you stayed the same from beginning to now, or have you actually transitioned as well and grown?
Like I'm in my Newport Beach home right now, and it used to be so full of clutter,
Mm-hmm.
and I've remodeled it twice. And the last remodel, I'm like, I'm getting rid of the clutter. I'm creating more neutral palettes. I've got to live here, and it's got to be more soothing
Mm-hmm.
when I get home from a really rough day. Um, it's a nice place to retreat to. It's not a large home. It's a 3 bedroom, 3 bath with an office, but it's a double lot. So in Newport Beach, a developer would rip this house down in a second and build, a 10,000 square foot home. So it's just, I have so much land, and the land is all impeccably landscaped in English and French gardens. It's just beautiful. I have water features everywhere. I have a Hamptons pool where the grass goes up to the edge of the
Mm-hmm.
coping of the pool. So it's a special home. It's a really special home. So,
I I I grew up in Newport Beach half my
oh, really?
life. Yeah. So yeah, I miss it quite often.
Yeah.
Um, are there any particular quirky requests that you've gotten from clients? He's like, I can't do that. I just can't do that.
Um, I'll tell you one, and I knew it was going to be interesting because he lived in Newport Coast also, and because you're from Newport, you know that you're dealing with more wealth from,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they bought in the gated communities up there.
Right.
And this gentleman was very odd, and I am tempted to say that the bride was a pay-for bride, like
Okay.
from Czech, from a Czech country. Um, and what's a shame is they had a 6 year old, and he comes to me one day and he's like, "We have this rotunda in the master bedroom, and I want you to create it as a stripper room with a stripper pole, and I want it to be Ferrari red."
Mm-hmm.
And his son slept 2 doors from the master, so would be able to see into it anytime. So I said, I can't do that. I can't do this. I don't want to do this. It's not my direction. And it ended up the man, really he had a really tough time with this wife. This wife
Mm-hmm.
didn't agree with what he wanted either, and they ended up into a very, very nasty divorce. But there's a situation where I don't want to do a stripper room in a house in Newport Beach. I don't want to do a stripper room at all.
Period. That's a little bit of a quirky one.
Yeah.
Is a collaboration a good? Do you collaborate with a lot of other entities? I'm assuming in creating your brand.
Yeah, actually, a really, really interesting thing I'm doing right now is I met a family I just went on a buying trip to Cape Town to South Africa, and I met this wonderful, wonderful family, and they have a company called Ardmore, Ardmore, and it's all hand painted ceramics and silks,
Mm-hmm.
and just the most beautiful product you've ever seen. Not inexpensive, but not out of control either. But
Right.
every piece is one of a kind. Every piece is hand painted. It's gorgeous. And I'm opening up a permanent pop up in my large Newport Beach store November 16th. This will be the first Ardmore store in the US.
Oh, wow. Well,
So,
congratulations to that endeavor.
and it's great because they support the local artisans in South Africa
Mm-hmm.
where they produce the product. And the interesting thing is the mother is incredibly dynamic, and they showed at Maison one time and they didn't like their location. So she went and bought a bunch of things from Hermes and took all the Hermes boxes and put their sculpture and their silks all over these Hermes boxes. And it was very funny. But corporate Hermes walked by and they walked to them and they said that we'd like to meet with you in our offices. So the mother was too much of a nervous wreck to go. So she sent one of her young daughters, and I think her daughter was like 20 at the time. And so here this poor daughter is going and meeting with corporate Hermes, and she walks out, and Hermes wants 4 scarves custom to their brand, only available through their showrooms. And so that was how they started out, is creating 4 custom scarves for Hermes. And
Wow.
they now also produce 2 custom scarves for Cartier. So they really have hit a niche. They have a
Mm-hmm.
wallpaper line with Cole & Sons with Kravit, and they just do beautiful work. And the daughters are flying in the 15th of November, and they're going to stay with me for a few days, and it's going to be wonderful. Like, it's just a beautiful product and very special, super special.
Well, I will definitely have to check out your retail store when I'm on the coast next time.
Yeah.
Can you highlight a project that challenged you creatively and how you overcame those challenges? Besides the stripper pole.
Really, if the project, now at this part of my life, because I really select what I'm going to work on,
Mm-hmm.
the challenges are more fun, to tell you the truth. It's not difficulty, it's more like challenging myself to be better. And so I wouldn't say that they're hard. It's
Mm-hmm.
more I grow from them. And this job in Pelican right now is a very good example of how I've grown from a beautiful experience, with this couple, and
Right.
and it's been wonderful.
Is there a particular go-to for you for materials or finishes that you try to incorporate into your design? That's just something that it's part of you?
Wallpaper. I
Yeah?
use wallpaper everywhere. I use wallpaper on the ceilings. Like in this room, I use wallpaper on the walls. I use it everywhere. So wallpapers, I'm a big fan of wallpaper. And, I remember like someone asked me, is wallpaper coming back?
Right.
And I think it was like 10 years ago. And I said, wallpaper never went out of style. Like, I don't know who taught you that it went out of
Right.
style, but, I grew up in my mom's house, and she would have like foiled silver wallpaper with black, like animal back black, like uh like African animals like
Uh-huh.
giraffes and tigers and so on, all flocked. So it was like flocked, like exotic animals on silver foil wallpaper in my family room. So that's how I grew up with my mother. I grew up with my mother having shag carpet, and I had to rake it for her. So
Mm.
like one of my chores was to rake the rag carpet. I mean the shag carpet.
Oh, my grandparents had that. It was all white too, even more
Yeah,
so.
my mom's was all white,
Oh,
and
well, there.
then I had a house that I bought from Desi Arnaz Jr. in Beverly Hills, and it was in disarray. And I made a promise to him personally that I was only going to restore it to the era of his parents, because it was a gift from his parents for 20 at his 20 when he turned 21. And I said, I'm only going to restore it because these two builders wanted to buy it because the lot and the view was like beyond. And I remember putting white wool shag upstairs, and it was like the most comfortable, beautiful carpet ever. And then one day, someone didn't shut the flue to the fireplace, and we had a windstorm, and all that ash blew out onto the white.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wool. I'm sorry. Yeah, the white wool shag. So, needless to say, we had kind of a black little gray area in front of the fireplace that we just had to deal with.
Wow.
But I mean, carpet has gotten so much better. When in those days, when I did that for my mom, the tufting is so tight now, you don't have to rake it. In those days, there was a lot of room in between the knots, so you had to rake it to get it to stand up.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a place that you can think of that you haven't had a project that you'd really like to do something?
Nantucket.
Yeah.
I've never done anything in Nantucket, and I feel like it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. And I think it would be very fun to do a job in Nantucket. I really, because I've done so much on the West Coast, and I've done the Hamptons, and I've done New York, and I've done Miami. So like doing something like Nantucket would be way outside the box of what I've done on the East Coast.
How would you describe your design aesthetic if someone never knew who you were?
I used to be called the Blue Boy, and it's because I was very blue and white. But I think that when you go and look at my portfolio or my newest book, you can see how I've evolved, and I tend to use a lot of white. So like all of my millwork, I'm very intricate in my millwork, and then I'm very careful with how much color is brought into a home because of what I've done with my own home, and where it is much more soothing and not so strong in color.
Is your own, as you mentioned, in your own home in Newport Beach, do you change it out consistently? Do you have new ideas that you want to refresh something, or are you pretty much satisfied? This is my lifestyle. This is me, and there should be no changes.
No, last time I changed it was probably 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But I constantly change like the bedding, or like the living room. We changed we changed the living room like 3 years ago because I had a new line with Kravet, and so I redid all of the living room in my Kravet textiles for that book. So it really depends on if I'm doing something different for a licensee, or like I really think that there's just a lot of opportunities that I have. Just like I have a mirror line, so sometimes maybe I'll change the mirrors on either side of the bed, or like I have a lighting line, and then I'll change the lighting in the house and so on. So it's fun because I'm driven by the things I create.
Now as you mentioned, you're on your 12th book that's just been released?
No, 7th.
Oh, 7th. Okay.
Yeah.
I sped you up a little bit. So tell us a little bit about the approach and process in collecting those images and what you want installed and incorporated into those books.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting because, to tell you the truth, I just had this conversation yesterday about what does it take to have a book. And if we're doing something that's like usually our books are about 220 to 240 pages, so we need like at least 140 images. So you just have to make sure that as you go along the way, that you prefer, you professionally shoot all the homes. And even if, like, we sometimes will do it home by home, or sometimes we'll do it style by style. So let's say I photograph a home where I don't particularly love the living room, or it's not accessorized or merchandised to the point where it deserves to be shot for a book. But maybe the powder room, the master bedroom, the master bath are perfect. So I'll shoot those areas so that I can have more film for the book, and then we can choose to make that book more about the style of bathrooms and the style of, like how to dress a bed and things like that. So I always think of a different way, but you got to make sure you have at least 140 good shots to do a book.
What's the length of process does it take to actually compile that and to get published once you have gone through all the imagery?
I've used the same publishing company. My first book was with Salone, but since then I've used Gibbs Smith, and I have 5 books with Gibbs Smith. Wait, no. So the first one was Salone, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm on my 6th book. I'm on my 2, 3, 4. Is it 7? Yeah. But anyways, so now with Gibbs Smith, they kind of let me present them ideas that are different. And like the newest book is, everything has been done with a jacket. Even with Salone, it was a jacket. So this one is linen wrapped in like a very crisp white, and then the cover is stamped and the back is stamped. So it's a much more sophisticated book than I've done in the past. I tell people that it's me grown up. So it's a really great book. You can go to Amazon. It's called The New Traditional, or just look up my name and the book will come up. So yeah, but it's a beautiful book. But I will say, going back to your question, how many years does it take? It really is, how many years does it take for me to have a good quality photos so that we can produce a book with Gibbs Smith? Maybe it might take 2.5 months to put the book together with graphics and so on. And then it'll go to overseas to print, and then it'll come back. So the total process is probably 2 years for the photos, 2.5 years for the photos, and another 6 months for production.
That's lengthy. It's a lot of time. Yeah. Now, do you already have ideas for number 8?
Well, we just actually started shooting a photography for the newest book. Yeah, because remember, so the New Traditional came out like maybe 18 months ago. So by the time I have a new book, it'll be another 3 years from now. So if you look at it, that's a 4.5 year time span. And really a book life, if you want to look at it from the standpoint of sales, books are like in the 5-6 year area. The sales start to slow down unless you have a really, really good book that people like to stack. And it's always so funny, like how I taught Gibbs Smith and teach others, that when you do a book, the binding is just as important as everything, because people like to stack their books.
Right.
And if the binding doesn't look right, then it will never be a good seller. Right. The good thing about this book, The New Traditional, is it has a great binding. So it'll be a stackable book. So hopefully the sales, knock on wood, will be very good. I mean, it's already its like 3rd reprint. So I know it's a good seller. Yeah.
And now doing licensing, what drove you to actually get started in doing that, in product design and doing licensing?
Actually, I mean, it goes back to that relationship with Kravit. And then I met other licenses because of the Kravit license. So that also just developed over time. It was not a plan. It was not the plan to have 16 licenses. but it occurred because of my perseverance and my ability to sell and so on. A lot of people wanted to sign with someone that really, really was part of the process, not just put the name on the product, but part of the design process, part of the sales process, and the whole bit.
It's a lot of juggling, I'm sure.
It's a lot of juggling. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, tell us a little bit about your new collection.
About Villa Blanca?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I basically told you about it. I mean, there's some some great pieces that are like leather wrapped with nail head. There's large, oversized like coffee tables that are like 52 by 52. There's these Moorish pieces that are available. It's kind of hard to explain, but the interior of these kind of like drinks tables or small end tables, and they're available like with a white exterior, but inside with like a coral, a teal, a buff, which is like a really beautiful tan color. So it's an eclectic mix of a lot of different style, but it all blends together as like as a true collected collection. So it's a very pretty line to look at.
Now, is this to market or to retail, wholesale? How can people actually see it if they're interested?
This is Lexington Home Brands. So Lexington Home Brands shows in High Point, and then they're a wholesaler. So like designers and then large retailers or small boutique stores can buy it. They just have to contact their local rep.
Fantastic. Now we have the word out for you. So if someone came to you and said, what would be the biggest impact, a single item, if they want to make a change in their environment, be it lighting, be it artwork, be it wallpaper, what would be your answer to that?
Just biggest one single impact?
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to the foundation of the room. So a carpet or the wallpaper, because it sets the tone for what's going on in the room. So if you really wanted to change up a room and you weren't going to refurnish it, or you weren't going to buy new chairs, or like buying a new carpet or wallpapering the walls is a definite change that is dramatic and can be done easily.
What advice would you give to somebody that is interested in this industry?
What advice? I don't think you have to go to school. So I didn't go to design school. I was taught by my mom. And then ASID granted me a membership as like, my own. They honored me for my work.
Right.
So I think that what I realized is, even the people that work for me, a lot haven't gone to design school. And the ones that have gone to design school are incredible designers, but people that deal with Adobe Suite or, that are really software experts can be very good designers because so much of it involves good software. So I would say get your education in things that you're going to use every day, like Adobe Suite, because we can't hire a designer that doesn't do, like 3D drawings are super important. So you got to think about the technical side of this industry. And if you're educated in those portions of the technical side of the business,
right,
you're much more, you're a valuable commodity.
When you look back on your career, what are you most surprised at that you didn't know upon this journey once you left law school?
I didn't realize that, the fame came as a result of a lot of things in my life, but it came unplanned. It was just organic. So I think that me being known as well as I am came very organically and was not planned, and is a big surprise, but a wonderful surprise.
Well, good. Well, sir, any closing comments? Anything else you'd like to share with us or tell us about?
Not that I can think of. I actually I I took up golf, and so just before I spoke to you, I was at a golf lesson, and she ran over time, and so that's why I was a little bit late for you, is because my golf lesson ran over.
Oh,
But
no, no
but
worries.
it's a hobby that I just picked up. So I'm excited because we myself and my partner golf a lot now, so it's kind of fun.
What course do you play out there?
Newport Beach Country Club.
Fantastic. All
Yeah,
right.
and then in Palm Springs we're with O'Donnell Country Club. Las Vegas we're with Las Vegas Country Club, and then I have a house in Cabo, but we don't belong to a club in Cabo.
It's a little hot out there. It's a little deserty.
Yeah.
Not much greenway.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to do anything else in your career related to what you do or not related to what you do, what would that be?
Well, I will tell you, I'm a licensed general contractor and I'm a licensed realtor. So I think that being a realtor actually allows me to find clients that I can work with, again, that I get to choose. So I don't know. I don't know if, maybe I work in different territories of the country where I own residences, and then work on the real estate side, and then cherry pick the clients that I've sold real estate to. And I think it would be an interesting business model.
That would be. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, besides golf that you've taken up, where do you find your downtime? I mean, you're doing so much. Do you feel like you're being pulled in multiple directions all at once?
Yeah.
I mean, like to challenge yourself.
I brought up Cabo, and these are very high-end VRBOs, and I brought it up because the hurricane last weekend destroyed the exterior. So I'm flying down there Saturday to get this worked on, and I'm flying in my general contractor from America to make sure I'm getting proper pricing. So, but these things like Palm Springs is a high-end VRBO. They allow me to have beautiful homes, but it is a lot of work.
Right.
Yeah. So, but what do I do for downtime? When I don't have to drain the pool in Palm Springs and repebble it, which I think I do have to do, I just go out there and relax, to tell you the truth. And that is very easy because it's an hour and a half door to door. And so I really think it's I'm very blessed to have that opportunity to escape out to the desert.
It's very soothing. So your mind's constantly going. Is there anything what's next for you? What's the next steps? What's the next big thing coming from Barclay Butera?
Well, we have some things in the works, but I haven't signed yet. So I'm a very, I'm maybe superstitious where I don't like to sign. I like to sign a deal before I talk about the deal.
True.
But I will tell you, there are some big things on the horizon.
Well, fantastic.
Yep.
So do you always have ideas floating around your head? I mean, do you keep a notepad thinking, I got to do this and this?
It's a hard time. It's hard to sleep, to tell you the truth. Yeah. Yeah. So, but I'm blessed, and my mom's 82, and she still takes on four jobs a year.
Fantastic.
And I see myself like her. I see myself taking on, more jobs a year, and not more jobs, but like maintaining work, even when I'm in my 80s. She's sharp as a tack, and that's the way I want to be too.
So does she still have her own firm, or does she work with you?
No, she has her own firm.
No. Any inclination to work together again?
No. No.
No.
So, yeah. My brother works for me, but no, not my mom. So,
Well, sir, I don't want to take any more of your precious time, and it's been a pleasure to have you on our show. I thank you so much for coming on today.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Well, you take care.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.